properties, REI, all the things, all the things. Wanted to do a video and just check in with everybody, let y'all know what's been going on with us on the real estate side of the business, as well as some of the personal stuff as well. Over the last year, I kind of fell off on social media and doing videos. I was doing pretty good at getting out there and putting content out before COVID hit. But I'll be honest with you, once COVID hit, I know a lot of folks this way, man. I just got burnt out on social media. So it felt like picking up my phone and turning the camera on. It was like a 500-pound camera. So I just could do it, but I wasn't doing it. So I want to get back on it a little bit and just kind of connect with folks out there. I really enjoy the connection that putting content out creates. It's super powerful, and just get back into it. So yeah, I'll just do just a brief rundown or a long rundown. We'll see where it goes of the last year, because it's really been about a year since I've kind of put some updates out there. Obviously a tough year for everybody last year, but at the same time, a ton of opportunities in the process. I think a lot of people have moved over to the virtual side of doing things, or implementing a lot more virtual aspects into their real estate investing business today than ever, just out of necessity. That's pretty apparent and obvious, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's opening up people to different markets. It's opening up people to more streamlined processes, all that kind of stuff. So there's good and there's bad. One thing that I found is we were virtual prior to COVID, and we were proving out that model. And I would say we were probably, in the 5% of investors that I knew that were doing everything virtually, and it was working for us. We were kind of getting our feet under us, investing in Greenville and Spartanburg while we were living in Georgia. We were investing in the Georgia market as well, but really kind of figuring that whole thing out. So it was good for us because we kind of had a head start on the virtual aspects, or the virtual side of the business. We had built out infrastructure there in the South Carolina market. Our network was strong with contractors, wholesalers, that sort of real estate agents, that sort of thing. So that really worked out in our favor. Fast forward 12 months now, and while we're still today 100% virtual in those markets, I'll get into the personal side of things and kind of tell you where I'm at and where the other guys are at today, because a lot of cool stuff has happened. A lot has changed, but we're still 100% virtual today, but we're starting to head back more to that boots on the ground, in-person aspect of the business. One, because once you do this virtually for a while, you kind of see the missteps that you can make by being virtual and not putting your own eyes on a project or on a property, or dealing with a seller, dealing with a buyer, whoever, a bank, you name it. There are just things that you miss on the virtual side. So we are going to move back to having boots on the ground there in Greenville. And Hunter, who is a huge part of our team, he went to the Air Force Academy with Vic and I, and really a good guy and close friends. He joined up with us a couple years ago now, which is crazy that it's been that long. But he is actually moving to Greenville, so he's going to be our boots on the ground there in Greenville, to partner with the folks that we already had kind of running the show there. But it's going to be awesome to have Hunter there. He's a fantastic acquisitions lead. He basically runs that side of the business for us, and he's the right person in the right seat. He's going to be able to connect with sellers. He's going to be able to hire acquisitions managers, bring them on, nurture them, have the processes in place, and hand that stuff over by delegation, as opposed to abdication. Like what's it called? What's the book? The E-Myth. sorry, I had a brain fart, like the E-Myth, because we've done the delegation by abdication a few too many times. So we've learned our lessons there. So we're super excited to get Hunter in the Greenville market. And just have his presence there. It's going to be fantastic. We're all excited about that. We're all going to take a trip down there in April and kind of be there to kick things off. We'll call it Runway 2.0 there in Greenville. So we're super excited about that. So to take a couple of steps back to just kind of tell you what we've been doing for the last, really focus on the last 6 months, is we went super heavy into the creative financing aspect of real estate investing. Call it probably June, July of last year is when we really started getting into it. And then around that same time, July, August, we were like, look, this is the key that unlocks all of our dreams and aspirations. And so this is what we're going to do 100%, which we tend to do. We tend to kind of make a change and go 100% in a different direction, which is not necessarily a good thing, and it's caused us a lot of trouble in the past. So but anyway, we decided to shift away from wholesaling, rentals, and flipping and wholetailing, and go 100% in the direction of creative financing. So purchasing subject to or with seller carry owner financing, and wrapping those underlying mortgages or the seller financing with an owner financing note, and placing a buyer on the back end. And it's fantastic. We do it a little different than most people do. We put the properties in trusts, and we have the seller put the property in the trust, and we're a beneficiary, they're a beneficiary, and then we sell the beneficial interest of that trust to the buyer. So they're purchasing the personal property as opposed to the real property. I could go way more into detail on that, but we think it's just the right way to structure. It's a little more complicated depending on who you talk to. Some people say with creative financing, make it super simple. And then some people are on the opposite end of the spectrum. We're a little bit further on the opposite end of the spectrum, because we think that the way that we do it is the right way to do it from a standpoint of we take care of everyone involved. The seller is taking care of the investor, if there's a third-party investor that's involved in the deal, the buyer, who is a tenant buyer in our case, and then obviously us, the ones that are putting it all together. We're all beneficiaries in that trust. So it protects everyone involved from start to finish, and puts safeguards in place more so than really any other method that we've come across. So that's how we do it. If that's not how you learned how to do it or have been taught to do it, that's fine. This is just the way that we choose to do it, and it's worked out well for us. There was a heavy learning curve, however, in doing that, and that kind of goes to my next point. We pushed ourselves to the brink of disaster in a lot of ways, by just 100% shifting our focus from all of the other disposition methods with real estate investing, and focusing 100% on the creative financing aspect for a couple of reasons. The first being cash flow. If you own a business, if you've run a business for any period of time, you understand the importance of cash flow in your business, having money in the business, not only to feed yourselves, but to feed the business and keep the business running. What happened was when we were flipping, we had all of these large chunks, large pops, injections into the business that were fueling our marketing, that were fueling our operational cost, our overhead, so that we could eat from a partner standpoint. So we had those big pops, but when we transitioned over to the creative financing side, it's more of a cash flow game. You can build a ton of equity, a ton of cash flow, and you can still have those cash pops on the front end, like your wholesale fee, basically, which I'll talk about a little bit. But when you're first starting out, you don't really know how to do it clean from start to finish. And so you have hiccups, and you buy deals that maybe you shouldn't have bought, or you pay too much money to the seller, cash out of pocket to the seller on the walk away. money side of things. Sorry, that didn't make sense, but you put too much cash outlay on the front end and don't get enough cash injection when you place that buyer and they come in with their down payment, or in our case, or a fundable contribution to the trust. So bottom line, we were cash strapped, very cash strapped. We went from doing selling 4 to 5 flips, I'll say, a month, and then a wholesale in there, a wholesale or two in there as well, and a rental property or two in there as well a month, to where we were doing 100% owner financing. And we put the hammer down in August and September and the last half of the year, and we took on 37 properties with creative financing. 35 of those being subject to. So subject to meaning you purchased it subject to an underlying mortgage. So there is a mortgage in place that the seller leaves in place that you take over. And that's what enables you to buy that deal. A lot of times pay more for that property than a normal cash buyer would be able to do. So we took over 37 properties, 35 of the 37 with creative financing, 35 of which were subject to, which is fantastic, but that's speeding. That's like going 170 miles an hour in, 75 mile an hour speed limit, with a 75 mile an hour speed limit. We had the hammer down. That's a lot to handle if you're doing all cash buys or if you're wholesaling. But especially with trying to do that all with creative financing and wrapping all of those, having not done it before, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. We got through it. We made it through, but we've got 4 guys and we were all in it 100%. And it still pushed us to the limits because we had quite a few hiccups that we hit along the way. So at the end of the day, it ended up being a really good thing, a really positive thing, and it forced us to really build and implement the processes that we have today. But it pushed us to our limit, and it pushed our business to its limits as well. The main reason being is, if you all of a sudden acquire 35, 37 properties that have underlying mortgage notes that are due every month, you got to get those suckers performing quickly, or else you're just going to be hemorrhaging cash. And that's what happened to us is, okay, we started taking these on, and I think in August we purchased 13 or 14 properties. September was right around the same. So we stacked these up really quickly, and so the underlying debt stacked up, and then the servicing of that debt stacked up, and they weren't performing. And then what was almost the nail in the coffin for us was I want to say it was September, October, Facebook Marketplace shut us down, shut me down, shut Travis down, shut all of us down to where we couldn't market the deals. And if you do this, if you're in this business, you know that you sell the majority of your houses with owner financing. You find those buyers through Facebook Marketplace. Facebook shut us down, didn't give us a reason, said we were violating some sort of rules. They have their algorithms, their bots. Somebody was complaining, something happened. They shut us down for almost 2 months. So our 90%, the 90% solution to dispositioning our properties was shut down just like that. And so now we've got all these properties, and we're trying to disposition them all with bandit signs, which, bandit signs work. You can definitely sell properties with bandit signs, but we're doing all of this virtually. So we're relying on folks to go put the bandit signs out to make sure the numbers are correct, make sure everything's correct. So that added another layer to the complexity of getting all of these things dispositioned and performing. And that was there were some scary moments in that. And at one point in time, we had, out of those 37 properties, we probably had 25 that weren't performing at one point in time. So again, just think about having 25 empty rental properties or 25 rental properties that the tenants aren't paying the rent on, and you're left holding the bag, which I know I don't think it was as bad as folks were concerned with on the rental side of the business, but we've had tenants that weren't paying, and so just imagine all of those properties not paying, and just the stress that comes on with that, and the challenges that come on with that. So get through. We are hounding Facebook on a daily basis. We are putting the bandit signs out there, slowly getting us to sell these properties. We started another website called Own Your Casa to sell the properties with owner financing. We were doing some other things, to try to put it on Craigslist to push these through. Working with agents there locally to just try to get these things filled and to where they were performing. But it was a slow process. It was difficult. And again, this is the first time we've really been dealing with this. So it was just like everything hitting at once, adversity at every turn, just debt that we weren't used to dealing with, responsibility that we weren't used to dealing with. But we got through it at the end of the day. We got through it. We ended up getting access back on Facebook. We were able to move all of the properties to where today, we're in March of 2021, and we have 2 properties that are not performing. Out of those, it's probably closer to 40 now, but 2 of those aren't performing. One is it's a tenant that's not paying the rent, and then one was just a bad buy, which out of 40 properties, one bad buy. It's not great. You never want to make a bad buy, but it happened, especially when we were going as fast as we were going. But so thankfully, I'm here today to say that we made it through the other end. The cash flow is fantastic. As anyone knows that has done Sub2s or creative financing and done wraps, they are so powerful because, one, you can pay more than any cash buyer can. And still have it be a good deal and still make sense. But you get cash flow that is, I would say on average, property cash flows between $300 to $500 a month. So say on average, you're looking close to $400 a door on the cash flow side of the business. When you're creating that node equity, if you're buying at any point at any discount at all, you're going to be able to add additional equity on the value of that property when you sell it, 10 to 15%, let's call it, of whatever that retail value would be. So your node equity is, on average, I think our node equity is maybe $35K of node equity that you're creating. Some are much larger, some are somewhat smaller. So you're getting the massive cash flow, you're creating node equity, and you're also getting a down payment on the front end. Like I said, in our case, we do everything in trust and sell beneficial interest of the trust, so it's considered a refundable contribution from that tenant buyer. So they're renting the property from us, but they are owning the beneficial interest. And we do that for a number of different reasons. But again, that's why we feel like the way that we're structuring these things is pretty solid. But again, you're getting that down payment, so you're getting what would be your wholesale fee, as long as you're structuring it well on the front end and not, giving away the farm when it comes to cash out of pocket. So you're getting your wholesale fee, you're getting massive cash flow per door, much better than a rental property, because you're not paying, one, the cash flow is greater, and you're not paying for anything. They own the property for all intensive purposes, and you're creating that node equity. So at some point, they're either going to pay you for 30 years or 25 years, however you structure it, or what happens on average, 5 to 7 years, they're going to cash out, move, sell the property, whatever, and then you get that big flip injection into your bank account. So that's what makes the creative financing so powerful. And I know that everybody's out talking about it now. It's the kind of big sexy thing when it comes to real estate investing that a lot of folks are doing. So I know I'm probably not telling you anything new, but it is extremely powerful. But I will caution you, if you are not seasoned and you have not done this before, don't do what we did. Don't make a complete 90-degree or 180-degree turn and go away from everything that you're doing today and only do this. Make it a gradual transition. Look to buy one right off the bat, take it through the process, make sure you have proven out any assumptions that you have in that process. That's one huge takeaway from last year for us was if you got an assumption that you think, like, for example, if you buy a house and you think you can refinance it for 75%, 80%, you need to go make sure you can refinance it, especially before you buy 10 houses that you think you can refinance at 75 or 80%. So when it comes to this stuff, I know that people say go fast, fail often. That's true. Don't let it stop you. Don't be dead in your tracks. But learn with one property, learn with 2 properties. Don't go in there and do what we did and get 35 of them and then realize that you don't know a lot of what you're doing and have to either correct what you've done so far or have to fix 35 properties as opposed to fixing 1, fixing 2, to where it's much more manageable. And again, back to the reasons why there are a lot of great things about doing real estate virtually, but to be there in person to manage this kind of stuff is also, you can't really replace that from a virtual aspect unless you've got fantastic systems and processes all completely built out to where anyone can do it at the lowest level. So anyway, that's the other part of this thing is, again, go slow if you're starting out. If this is new to you, just go slow, get a couple under your belt, and then you can scale it once you have the systems and processes. But the big thing is proving those or going through the process and understanding what you have to do, because there are a lot of little steps. If you're doing it, I'll say, in my mind, the right way, there are going to be a lot of little steps that you need to make sure that you get right, that you don't have to think about when you wholesale, that you don't have to think about when you flip or have rental properties, because there are just a lot more details that come along with this if you're doing it the right way, in my opinion, that are much, much harder to go back and correct than they are to just get it right on the front end. And I know that you're not going to know everything 100% foolproof on day one when you're going through it. So there's going to be things that you have to go back and correct and go back and fix. But let me just tell you that it is so much better to just get it right the first time. Understand what you're doing and get it right the first time, because going back and trying to fix it is, it's like trying to move mountains with these things sometimes. So that's my advice. Go slow, figure it out, and then go from there and scale from there when you're ready. But so all that to say, it was a very stressful period. December, January was super stressful, but we were able to get through it, put our heads down and just get it done. And at the end of the day, it's, there's a good payoff in it, and it makes a lot of sense. And now we're much better equipped to scale our business and keep going. Sorry, my phone's shaking because I'm hitting the desk. So sorry if I'm making you seasick. But anyway, what else? So on the personal side, something that's very cool is as a result of COVID, and the fact that we were already pretty much doing everything virtually anyway, my wife and I were sitting on the couch one day and we decided, look, we're sitting at home doing everything. She works virtually as well. What's stopping us from selling our house, selling everything, and jumping in an RV and hitting the road? And we had that conversation, and probably 45 days later, we had sold our house, sold our car, sold pretty much all of the belongings in our house, bought a fifth wheel and bought a dually, and hit the road. And so we are out in beautiful Sedona, Arizona right now. We kind of traveled around for a few months and landed out here, and it's just so beautiful that we got stuck. I mean, you can see those pictures behind me, those are that's the landscape out here. And since November, it's probably been an average of 65 degrees every day and sunny. So we love it out here. So we're out here in Sedona in the north of Phoenix. Vic is actually out here right now as well. He bought an RV and he started his RV trip about a month ago. So he came out and joined us. So he's out here. He's about to head back to California and then hit the road as well. Travis and Fallon had another baby. So they have 2 under 2 right now. So they have their hands full. They're back with family in Illinois, but they're having a good time. And like I told you, Hunter is, he's making his way up to Greenville. So we're spread out all over the place. But it's had its challenges for sure. I think everybody's going to do a little more of their own kind of thing in the areas that they're located, which is great. But the other part of this is what happened was through the challenges is it forced us to create these processes. So now we have this business in Greenville and Spartanburg, as well as still in Georgia. We basically go from Atlanta all the way up I-85 to Greenville and Spartanburg, South Carolina. So we'll have our business running and gunning there, and then just looking for opportunities all over the place. So basically wherever you are in the country, you probably got one of us close by. I don't know if that's comforting or a little concerning, but there you go. What else we got going on? Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that I'd like to talk about, but you know, this short little video has turned into a 27-minute video, so I'll cut it short because I don't know if I have enough space on my computer to upload this thing. But just, you know, got the bug to start putting more videos together and talking about what we're doing. We realize that, you know, creative financing is a fantastic tool, and it's going to be even more powerful based on what you have to assume is coming in the real estate market with the wave of foreclosures and the forbearance coming to fruition. I mean, I've never been through this, so not that anyone's been through this in particular, but this is my first time through a market cycle. I wasn't doing this in 2008, 2009. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. I mean, banks could say, you know what, we're going to just renegotiate all of these mortgages with the owners, and then somehow they figure it out. I don't know how that would happen. I'm not that smart, but I think just to assume that there are going to be some heavy foreclosures coming is a pretty safe bet. So understanding creative financing, whether it's a huge wave or whether it's just, you know, an uptick in the market, it's going to be a very powerful tool for you to understand. So, you know, jump on it, start learning today, find somebody that knows what they're doing, find somebody that's done it, that is proven, you know, because it's more complicated than what you're used to if you haven't done this before. But you're going to need to know it in the future. If these foreclosures hit, you're going to need to know how to do it to help these sellers out of the situation, because not everybody's going to have, you know, 30% equity in their home. But if you can buy on terms, you can still help them out. So you'll be able to help sellers, help yourself, help. That's the other great thing is you're actually creating an opportunity for home ownership for someone else who wouldn't be able to secure financing for whatever reason, but they still, you know, they're still great people. They still have income. They still are able to afford it. You're offering them that opportunity to own a home, and you know what better way to contribute to society than help with home ownership. So anyway, again, off on a tangent, but my nose itches. It's solid, but we have started flipping and wholesaling again. I'll talk a little bit more about that in some other videos. But yeah, odd times, but you know, there's opportunity everywhere. So I'll cut it off at that, and message me on Facebook, Instagram. Would love to connect with you wherever you're watching this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.